All right. Thank you for joining the Request for Proposals Photographic Documentation Services Pre-Submission Conference. The agenda today will be our welcome and introductions, the photographic documentation overview. We'll have procurement details, evaluation submission criteria, compliance, and question and answer session. We will start with a quick introduction. We will start with James from the PBC team first.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. James Borkman, Director of Procurement. Thanks for joining today.
Patricia Montenegro, PBC Procurement. Welcome.
Cal Lejeune, Director of Planning and Design, PBC.
Randy Williams, Deputy Director of Construction, PBC.
Minnie Keys, PBC Procurement.
Trace Doyle, PBC Compliance.
D. Taylor, PBC Procurement and Compliance.
Mary Pat Witchery, PBC.
Good morning, Kim Smith, PBC Compliance.
Anybody else from the PBC team?
I think we also have our IT Director and our Director of Controls on the call.
All right, thank you. So, James, if you can help with the respondents.
Absolutely. So if you want to just say hello and who you're with. Also, I would please ask you to change your name to your first name, last name, and then put your company name in parentheses. Those that have followed the rules, I will give you the privilege of going first. Cliff, why don't you introduce yourself? That's Cliff Ellis from Pixel Rated Media, Inc. Dana, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, Dana Erdman with Blaine Andrews, BDC.
Hi, Dana. Caesar?
Good morning, Caesar Santoy, Studio ARQ.
Good morning.
Good morning.
David Ortega?
Morning, this is David Ortega, JGMA.
Morning. Kenneth Clay just joined.
Good morning, this is Kenneth Clay of CKL Engineers, LLC.
Morning. Michelle Lenore. Thanks for updating your name. You're probably hunting for the unmute button.
I am. I'm sorry. Michelle Lenore, Reno Art.
Good morning, Michelle.
Morning.
Yeah, Paul
and I just found my unmute button. This is Cliff Ellis, Pixel Rated Media.
Welcome, Cliff. Thanks for joining. Paul Munsterman.
Yes, hi, Paul Munsterman, Multivista. I honestly can't change I don't know how to change my name in there, so I put it in the chat.
Appreciate you, Paul. Thanks. We'll change the name for you. Patty, or maybe I have those powers. We'll find out shortly. We also have Ryan Howard.
Hi. Good morning, everybody. Ryan Howard with Blaine Andrews, VDC.
Good morning. And Joshua Orozco.
Hello, good morning. I'm Joshua Orozco. I'm with Reno Art, LLC.
Good morning. And I think, Miguel, I've covered it. If I missed you, I apologize. Could you enter? Kyle, did I say you? I apologize if I missed you.
No, but I just jumped on, so no worries. Kyle Gray with Blaine Andrews.
Good morning. All right. Did I miss anyone? Well, we're excited to have you all here. Thank you so much. Miguel, go ahead and take it away. Get to the good stuff.
All right. Our next section is photographic documentation overview, and that would be presented by Cal Lejeune, Director of Planning and Design.
Thank you, Miguel. Yeah, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how we've been using these services for our various types of projects. We have I don't have the slide. I have too many screens in front of me, but We have a number of different project typologies that we use the photographic documentation for. It's been primarily used during the construction phase after we have completed our planning, our design process, the procurement, and we're getting into construction is really when the services have been primarily used for our purpose. Now, certainly part of going through this process again is that there might be other opportunities for this use prior to us getting to construction. So we'll hear more from you about that as you work through your proposals. But the project typologies have varied from different sectors. I know we have done a lot of K-12 education projects where CPS was a primary client. But we have expanded into a number of others: libraries, park and recreational facilities, a lot of municipal projects with 2FM that used to be called AIS, with police, fire stations, and others. We've also been getting into a lot of site improvement scope, dealing with infrastructure throughout the city, working in partnership with CDOT and Department of Water Management. And then there's some bigger projects, shorelines and bridges and streetscapes that spans kind of looking at the opportunities for some of the services to expand into more work. Others, camera infrastructure, and a lot of other different types of work that we do. Asking what do we request in terms of this type? Well, we look primarily first at the site survey, looking at as-built before we start construction to ensure that we're capturing the information in advance of doing work. That is extremely important to have, knowing that the impact to communities and areas that we are working as a public agency is important, that we make sure that if restoration is required, that's part of that. We also next do a lot of exterior progressions as a way of, from grade on up above to identify, the 360 views around a project. If it's a building or if it's an open site, we're able to capture that information as it progresses and track through construction. Interior progressions is the internal piece of that, to capture key areas, substantial framing, substantial rough ends, insulation. Before things are covered up and disappearing, we want to make sure that we cover those key components. And it's even more important in the renovation projects, where identifying and understanding systems, and as things are opened up for the renovation, that we're capturing those key areas to make sure that we have that. We also have the MEP as-built as part of new construction, where we're focusing on things before they're covered up, right? In-wall, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. We also, deal with that as part of the inspection process as well, for things that happen. Since it has to be concealed by a period of time, inspection can then review that information as needed. For a lot of renovations that we've done recently, another scope related to our roofs, looking at as-built conditions for renovations, knowing that whether it's a full roof tear off or partially, or doing temporary roofs, all of those are important, knowing that there are curbs and gutters and perimeter stone and, all of the coordination that happens between old and new and renovation for the new scope. So the roof as-built tend to be quite extensive as well. And then a couple of other pieces, looking at mock-ups here, lots of new construction, obviously, that we have, looking at a panelizing system or exterior wall, or even a section of the roof coping assemblies. Those kinds of things are documented as well as part of that. And then we have recently have been pushing more, looking at slideshows, whether the slideshows are at grade, specific aspects of the building or site, but also kind of aerial slideshows, which have been, especially for the projects that are much more expensive with a lot of coverage, you want to be able to show and identify some progressions related to those. So these slideshows become a part of it. We have since part of requirements, including drone footages, obviously as part of that to be able to do it. And that's become a good way of cataloging the sort of those resolutions of high res photography related to project sites. And then just other types of documentation that we'll find out as you work through your RFQ for the information that we then will procure you for the various projects that we have. So that's an overview of our projects, and I'll pass it on back to you, Miguel.
Thank you very much, Kel. Next, we will be going into the area of procurement details. We will talk about the procurement timeline. We issued the request for proposal on February 27th, and our pre-submission conference is today at 11 a.m., which started. For questions, the deadline is Friday, March 14th at 12 p.m. The submission deadline to be submitted by 10 a.m. on Thursday, March 20th. We tentatively hope to have the recommendation to the May PBC board meeting for PBC board approval. The documents are available on our PBC website at the correct opportunities page. And you can also use the link that is available on this slide to get to it. The submission is due on Thursday, March 20th at 10 a.m. Tentatively, contingent on any change due to any addendum, and the addendums can be found on the RFP page in the opportunities section of the PBC website. Our request for information deadline is this Friday, March 14th. I'm the sole point of contact, and those questions can be emailed to miguel.fernandez@cityofchicago.org. Presently, we have issued the first number one addenda, which was issued on March 6th. And that can be found also on the RFP opportunities page. The next section we will be talking about is the evaluation and submission criteria. Evaluation criteria. We will have an evaluation committee to review the respondents' qualifications in accordance with the evaluation and submission requirements criteria. The evaluation committee will be reviewing these sections: firm qualifications, experience, and past performance with a weight of 25%. We will go into each of these areas in the next slides. The quality and responses for respondents' references at 5%, project approach at 15%, qualifications and relevant experience of key personnel with a weight of 20%, hourly rates at 15%, commitment to MBE participation with a weight of 20%. The firm qualification and experience and past performance respondent, we would like the firm to provide the quality of depth, breadth, and relevance of the respondents' recent experience, capabilities, and resources in the Chicago metropolitan area at both the corporate and individual levels in providing in-depth photographic documentation services. The quality of the respondents' depth and breadth of completing photographic documentation services in both new construction and renovation in the types that Kel mentioned in the previous section, which is education, pre to K to 12, higher education, libraries, parks and recreation facilities, municipal facilities, including but not limited to police and fire stations, site improvements, sewer and or water infrastructure, bridges, shoreline, streetscape, viaducts, camera infrastructure, and other types of projects. We would like to see you provide evidence of your understanding and of the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago drone photography guidelines, and acknowledge understanding of the FAA's small unmanned aircraft regulations with part 107. Provide any current certifications and all applicable licenses required for drone photography your firm maintains. Under quality and responses from respondents' references, an example of the reference is on the right side of the slide. Please provide a minimum of 3 references for clients identified in your firm's experience and past performance. References cannot be current PBC employees. For purposes of this RFP, all respondents shall complete attachment G, the references form. You can duplicate the form as necessary. Next section was project approach. Please provide an overview of your firm's business process from start to finish regarding various project types. Include specifics about your firm's ability to provide all services requested in the scope of services in the RFP. Describe in detail your firm's process to determine project objectives, key project variables, and timelines. Detail your firm's ability to apply various project approach methodologies to match the requirements of various projects. Under qualifications and relevant experience by key personnel, provide the breadth, depth, and relevance of qualifications of key personnel, including education, training, job performance, and similar capabilities, capacities on comparable projects, and previous experience in providing required services. The relevance of project types on which key personnel have provided required services. Please provide a key personnel matrix of all proposed key personnel that will work on the PBC projects in alphabetical order by last name. The matrix shall include the firm with which the key personnel is employed and the number of years with current firm. Please provide resumes of key personnel in alphabetical order by last name and applicable licenses. Under hourly rates, please provide a spreadsheet with the hourly rates of the following personnel: principal in charge, operations manager, photographer, project implementation manager, software technician. If there are any additional staff you deem necessary to complete the required services, please provide the title and the explanation for the need of the service that person provides, along with appropriate billing rate at each position as necessary. Our next section that will be evaluated is the commitment to PBC participation, PBC, MBE, WB participation. It'll go into detail in the section by Patrice Doyle, but here I want to explain that the quality of the respondent's statement of understanding and commitment to comply with the PBC special conditions. The special conditions can be found in attachment D, and as evidenced in the executive summary. In addition, the PBC will evaluate the respondent's past performance in meeting and or exceeding the MBE and WBE goals on the PBC and non-PBC projects as indicated in attachment D. Please be advised that the contract specific goal for MBE, WBE participation is a minimum of 30%, which can be through MBE, WBE, or both MBE and WBE. The goal may be met by participation of a MBE firm, a WBE firm, and a combination of both, as noted in attachment D and explained twice. The RFP submission requirements. We highly recommend an electronic submission, one complete copy of the RFP tabbed, page numbered, and labeled. Include all information requested including financial information, which will be submitted to us separately, but in the same email in a PDF format. Note, it must be in a single searchable PDF document, with the exception of documents that are only available as a copy. Copy of licenses, certificates, and or permits. Submissions can be emailed to pbc-procurement@cityofchicago.org and to myself at miguel.fernandez@cityofchicago.org. Note that there is a file size limitation of 25 megabytes. Should your submission exceed 25 megabytes, please provide access to your firm's submission via Dropbox or another secure program link. The next section is a submission checklist. The checklist is shown on the right side of the slide. It is for your use and to provide us all the documents and information that is required for the evaluation committee to evaluate your firm. Please provide the contact information page. That is the very first page of the request for proposal. At the bottom, there's a contact section. Please complete the contact information on that page and submit it with your submission, and that'll be on tab 1. We have a cover letter that is also in tab 1. Please have it signed by an authorized representative. The cover letter must identify all firms in the project team composition, as well as must indicate the respondents is prepared to enter into an agreement, same as the similar agreement sample that is attachment F, the sample of form of agreement, which contains the commission's standard terms and conditions of the agreement. The respondent must also acknowledge any addenda issued and posted on the PBC website at pbcchicago.com in the cover letter. A statement regarding the respondent's understanding and commitment to comply with all insurance requirements as evidenced in attachment E, insurance requirements. The next section is executive summary. That is an overview of the services the respondent is proposing, which includes the respondent's ability to demonstrate that the respondent has a clear understanding of the services as specified in the scope of services. Please limit to no more than 1 page. Describe the respondent's internal process to perform the required services. The organization chart that must be provided, illustrating the structure of the respondent's proposed team to work on the PBC projects. This will include senior management, executives, principals, project managers, project estimators, administrative assistants, and or other professionals that are employed by the firm who are being proposed as part of the team assigned to work on PBC projects. If you're submitting as a joint venture, or if there is MBE, WBE firms that are included as sub-consultants, the chart should clearly identify how the management and personnel would be integrated into the team and utilized. The next section is MBE, WBE experience. We spoke a little bit about that in the previous slide. References, that we will be getting into, which is attachment G, key personnel matrix. The key personnel matrix, please provide a key personnel matrix of the personnel that will work on the PBC projects in alphabetical order by last name. The matrix shall include the firm with which the key personnel is employed and the number of years with current firm. hourly rate spreadsheet, which was covered previously in the previous slide. And the attachments, all the attachments that are in the RFP are also listed in our checklist. The next section will be compliance, and that will be provided by Patrice Doyle.
Hey, Patrice, would you mind, since we only have Cal for a very brief moment here, if he answered a couple of the questions in the chat before you provide your compliance information?
Sure, James, go ahead.
Thank you. Cal, do you mind just answering Caesar's question was regarding whether or not we'd like to see 3D walkthroughs or 3D photographic work as part of the upcoming projects?
Yes, absolutely. I think part of this is understanding what the capabilities are of firms that are responding to the RFQ or the RFP, I'm sorry, because things have changed over time and your abilities and the options of what you can provide. And maybe it's something that we haven't used yet and we're looking forward to hearing more about. So absolutely 3D and any other aspects that elevates the work beyond what the draft kind of listing of opportunities are, would be happy and we would love to see it.
Thank you, Cal. I know that you have to run, so I appreciate you answering that.
Yeah. Any others?
Well, Cliff, Joshua, and I believe one other person asked, David asked a question, but I can answer those at the end.
Got it. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Patrice, apologies. Thank you.
No, that is fine. So for this project, Miguel had mentioned earlier that it was a 30% MBE WBE aggregate goal, but I know everyone has taken a look at addendum 1 and know that the requirement has changed and it is corrected on this sheet, that there's a 25% MBE WBE aggregate goal, again, that can be met with 1 MBE, 1 WBE, or a combination of MBEs and WBEs. We only accept certification from the city of Chicago or Cook County, and they must be certified in the scope of work that they're performing. So make sure if you're talking to MBEs or WBEs that they are certified with city of Chicago. They have a current certification with city of Chicago and or Cook County, and that their certification matches the scope of work that you're requesting. If you're deciding to do a joint venture agreement with an MBE and or WBE, you can put your information here, or just a joint venture in general. We don't need the contract at this point, but we do need you to complete this form and identify the relationship with your joint venture partner as what percentage each contractor or consultant will perform, and what actually each sub-consultant will perform. So we encourage MBE and WBE joint venture contract agreements. So if that is something that you are looking forward to doing, make sure you complete this form and submit it with your RFP. All right, so once the contract is awarded, you will have to complete a Schedule C and a Schedule D. And the Schedule C, the D is the credit amount and the C is the contract amount. But if you are in discussions with an MBE or WBE firm that you know you will utilize on this project, you can add their information to the Schedule D. There will be no amounts you could put to be determined, because it's just identifying who you might utilize if you are awarded the contract with the PBC. You will also submit, if you are an MBE or WBE, make sure you submit if you have a certification letter, not sure how soon you apply, but some firms may have certification letters. If not, you can submit the information from the website that you are certified as an MBE and or WBE, and make sure that it is in the scope of work that is being performed with those NAICS codes. And I can't remember what code the Cook County used, but just make sure that your certification and the certifications of your sub-consultants are comply with the scope of work. I know I'm saying that a lot, but I just don't want to have to say that it does not apply because of that reason. Next slide. The Schedule C will not be completed at this time because you're not sure what the amount of the task orders will be. The contract is on a task order by task order basis, but we wanted to let you know that this is a form that will need to be completed if you are awarded the contract for photographic services.
Thank you, Patrice.
So I just want to say a couple of other things, Miguel.
Yes.
Just to give some tips on submitting your RFP. And at tabs 3. So this service, the reason the goals was not, it was project specific goals, because we do understand the concerns of providing MBE and WBE participation, and you will be scored on the MBE, WBE information you submit. So just to say that, okay, I understand it's 25% MBE, WBE, I agree with that. Some things that might get you a little higher score if you have identified those MBEs or WBEs that you will be working with. So take this opportunity to look at the RFP, look at the databases and see if it's anyone that you might want to partner with or that you will work with. If awarded the contracts, just trying to give you a little additional information to add to your letter stating your concern or requirement regarding the MBE, WBE participation. Just identifying what it is and providing who you might work with might reflect what type of scoring you receive when you submit your RFP. All right, thank you, Miguel.
Thank you, Patrice. Okay, as I mentioned before, I'm the sole contact person. Please submit your submission to miguel.fernandez@cityofchicago.org. And we will now go into the question and answer session.
Thank you, Miguel. Really nice job on the presentation. We had a couple of really good questions. Cliff asked, is there a specific billing schedule required or requested? And Joshua asked, will there be a single contract or separate contracts? And I'm going to kill two birds with one stone, guys. So these are task order based master agreements. It's one contract that covers all the possible services we could ask of a photographic documentation firm. So we're really looking for you to express your breadth and depth of what you can do. To Cesar's point, 3D stuff is great. It may not have been specifically mentioned in the RFP. That doesn't mean you shouldn't showcase and show off your firm's abilities. As far as the billing goes, because these are task order based master agreements, each instance for a service request, an RFP goes out to one of the firms that we select, and we may select more than one firm and put your photographic documentation services into a rotation. We have the ability to do that. If we did, you'd respond to the RFP. The services would then commence. We'd issue an approved task order. Once that task order has been approved, we utilize the Trimble Connect, Construct Connect system, formerly known as eBuilder. Some of you may be familiar with that. And you submit your invoice via eBuilder. The invoice is then reviewed for accuracy and completeness with finance. And of course, the most important part, you then get paid, Cliff, which I think is the best part of the whole deal. Does that answer your questions?
One more question, James, was added regarding
oh, I'm not done. I just
I'm sorry.
That no, that's great.
I thought that
Cliff and Joshua. Okay, good. Cliff, it helps you. Joshua, I think you're okay with that answer. Okay, cool. I'll take silence as acceptance. And then David asked, is there an online security company PBC prefers to host document that meets or exceeds their requirements? No, even though we are a government agency, we don't have a preference. We do need it to be secured though. So WeTransfer has been used very successfully by a number of people who submit. Dropbox and Google Drive are also acceptable. Does that make sense, David?
Yeah, that does. Okay, that does help. Just to piggyback on another question that you had mentioned with Caesar and I don't know the other individual, but essentially, it looked like the award was essentially capped at a certain amount, right? And that's for the master agreement, or is that for each task that's
No, that is
awarded?
good question. That is for the master agreement. Miguel, we went with what amount for the master agreement? Is the contract officer?
That was 500,000.
That is correct.
Okay, so then is there a duration for that? Like, would we have to submit or resubmit be reconsidered for the following year? Or is that good for a year? 2
No,
years?
so sorry. Sorry. That's a really good question, David. This is a 3-year contract with the option for 2 1-year extensions.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And last but not least, Patrice, I'll let you answer Cliff's question regarding if they are not certified MBE or WBE, must they partner with a subcontract from the business that is in order to be awarded the contract?
And James, I know you could have answered this question, but the answer is no. We love to see joint venture with MBEs and WBEs. You do not have to be a MBE or WBE to be awarded the contract. Just, I do want to note again, when you're putting your proposal together, because each task order will have compliance. So for each task order, it will ask for that 25% MBE WB participation. So we want to know going in who you spoke with, how you're going to meet that goal. So when you submit your RFP, hopefully you're looking at it and understanding that there's a 25% requirement, and in your tabs 3, you will identify or say how you will meet it, not just, okay, we understand that there's a 25% requirement, we're okay with it, but if you can go into a little bit more information, that's not required either. It is suggested. So however you submit your RFP, but no, you do not have to be an MBE or WBE or a joint venture in order to submit and be awarded the contract.
Was that the last question, James?
Looking at the chat, I see no more questions. Cliff, thank you for the thank you, Patrice. Cliff says thank you, Patrice. Nicely done.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much for joining. And this will end our pre-submission meeting conference. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Great job, Miguel.